guys, Jack here and welcome to Player Roles in Depth, the Football Manager 2014 series where we look at the newly announced roles of Football Manager, what they're going to offer you in game and how they've impacted modern football. Today's role we're going to be looking at is the Enganche. Let's get straight into this. The Enganche is a new role in Football Manager 2014, traditionally Argentinian. The Enganche is the player who sits at the tip of the midfield, offering the main creative outlet of a team. It's best deployed by teams that have a number of players surrounding the central attacking midfielder, with usually two up top and two central midfielders and potentially options out wide. Two examples of the Enganche in modern football are Kaká and David Silva. Whilst neither of these players function like the traditional Enganche, both function somewhat like an Enganche, hovering around the midfield and providing the main creative outlet for the teams they represent. However, in a historic sense, if we want to look at an example of Enganche, Riquelme is the pinnacle of this role. For both Argentina and at club level, Riquelme was the main creative outlet for the team. What he lacked in physical speed and ability, he made more than up for in his smarts, able to look for space and drift into it without being pulled up by the defenders. The main role of the Enganche is to pick up the ball in space that he's created, suck in the defenders, creating space for players to run into. This is a very unique role, but one that can be best deployed by your advanced playmakers, particularly during the twilight years of their career. For today's real-life example of the Enganche in action, we're going to be looking at the Argentina squad that Riquelme represented, and also why Argentina are currently going through a transitional period, having been accustomed to having players like Riquelme in their side who can play this position, how they've shaped up tactically now, and why they're suffering without the likes of Riquelme. So anyway, getting straight into today's example, here on screen you can see the shape that Argentina used to play with Riquelme at the side. Riquelme was the creative outlet in the centre, he'd hover in the pocket. The big difference between the Enganche and trequartista is the fact that the Enganche doesn't tend to roam out of position. He stays central, allowing him to link up with all the players. When in the attack, you've got to imagine that you're completely surrounded as this playmaker in the centre. What this playmaker does is sucks in the players around him, creating space for the other players. The trequartista is a role which usually sits in the pocket. However, the Enganche sits in this pocket, sucks in players, but puts in half the effort, not having to run around the pitch. So in this example, the Enganche is roaming in this space. He's sitting in the pocket, however he's still continuing to lie centrally. What happens here is, the ball gets distributed into him, and so he gets possession of the ball. And now the defensive team, marked by A, B and C, are in a dilemma. Who should close him down? Now the problem is, if A tracks back, then you're leaving two central midfielders free in the centre for him then to pass back to. If the centre-backs go towards Riquelme in the centre, they're leaving the front men and giving him an even easier pass. Combine this with the fact that G and D on the wing are going to be pushing up as well, offering even more creative options. Riquelme's never short of a pass to pass to, simply because Argentina would outnumber teams in the centre. The Enganche is a fascinating role. It's one of a dying breed, however it certainly has a place in modern football, but it requires a very unique player to play this. Riquelme did a great job of this. He became the hub of the team. Balls could be played in left, right and centre to him, and just through taking his time, looking for the opportunity and then finding a pass, Argentina were able to recycle the ball really well from two fairly deep-lying central midfielders. Now the problem for Argentina currently is huge, because the problem they have is that they're lacking that central attacking midfielder link player. Maradona during his time particularly, and I think it was in 2009, particularly struggled with this. Argentina lost to Bolivia 6-0, and the reason for it was simple. They were trying to play a 3-4-3 system, and the problem with this was there was no link player. Mascherano and his partner, who I can't remember off the top of my head, are two very deep-lying central midfielders. Neither of these players are particularly creative, and when you have Tevez, Aguero and Messi up front, or whichever strike partnership you choose to play, without this kind of player sat in the gap, these players were just completely marked out the game by Bolivia, who won, I think it was 5 or 6-0. I think this was in 2009, and it was a real struggle because Argentina had been blessed with this kind of player in the centre who was going to really offer some options. So anyway, the main difference between the Enganche and the trequartista, as I've already mentioned, is the Enganche will sit kind of fairly central and just drift into tiny bits of space but within his area of roaming, whereas the trequartista really is a manoeuvrable player who moves with the play in order to create opportunities. The other difference between the Enganche and the advanced playmaker, for example, is the fact that the Enganche holds up the ball. He doesn't roam into the final third as much as you'd expect, instead sitting in the pocket, very rarely moving forward, and instead relying on players around him to get up the field and offer the support in a 5 or 6 man attack. So anyway guys, hopefully you enjoyed today's video, hopefully you learned about what the Enganche is, what the difference between it and the other roles in Football Manager is. If I've explained it well and you did enjoy the video, be sure to smash the like button. If you want to check out more of these player roles in depth, click the link on screen, it'll take you to the playlist for all the new roles for Football Manager 2014. If you're new to my channel, subscribe for more Football Manager 2014 content. And other than that, it is me, Jack, and I'll talk to you guys in a bit. I'm out.